Discover the best-kept secrets from the leading entrepreneurs across the globe. Learn from the greatest minds in business with the MyCoda podcast. Here's your host, Sam Payne.
What's up, everybody? Sam Payne here, and welcome to another episode of the MyCoda podcast. Now, today I had the pleasure of interviewing Julie Parker of the Beautiful You Coaching Academy. And Julie is just one of the nicest, most genuine people you will ever meet in your life. I can guarantee that. And the work she's doing with guys in her with her academy is just incredible. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about that now, because Julie does explain to us in the interview exactly what she does within the academy and how she's benefiting people. But what she is doing very well is just running these academies, running courses which are producing phenomenal life coaches, which are going out and just really helping people achieve their goals and getting them in the right mindset to go out and really smash it and set up extremely successful businesses and make a success of themselves. So when we talk about life coaching, I don't think we quite fully understand the depths of how this really helps people, because mindset, it is one of the foundations of a successful being, a successful person. Because if you've not got the right mindset, if you're not in the right place mentally, you're never going to make your business a success. You need to be level-headed, you need to be calm, you need to be observant, you need to be able to listen to people, you need to be able to make decisions quickly. You need to be able to break down situations very quickly and move and react. And that is a lot to ask for someone, especially in a startup phase when there's so much going on and things are moving so quickly with your business. And what Julie has discovered is by helping people get to a mindset where they're completely happy with themselves and know exactly where they're going and what they want to achieve, they are making so many smarter decisions within their business, which is having a knock-on effect of just turning them into a success. So this applies on so many levels, guys. I can't even explain how beneficial this episode is for anyone who's starting out in their own business today. And Julie is one of, she's so good at her job. Halfway through the interview, we actually spoke about things, and I won't go into it in too much detail now, but I actually confided in Julie and told her about struggles I've faced personally with my family and work. And she just has that effect on you. You just want to tell her your problems or problems you've had. And then she does actually genuinely help you. And she's so good at what she does. You can tell she has a real flair for this. And she's been doing this for the best part of 20 years now and just been extremely successful throughout her time, and even the run up to setting up her own company, which is now Beautiful You Coaching Academy. Even as such a success in an industry, she still faced challenges, and she goes into a lot of detail about how she does that and how she overcome them too. So this is an incredible interview, guys, and one I can definitely recommend listening to. You will get so much from this one, and like I said, it was just such a pleasure interviewing Julie. So here it is, guys. I will leave the intro here. Here is the MyCoda podcast with Julie Parker of the Beautiful You Coaching Academy. Okay, good morning, Julie. How are we doing today?
I'm great, thanks, Sam. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for coming on. If anyone's going to bring positivity and help people actually get in a very good mindset to make their businesses a success, it's going to be you and what you do with your coaching academy. So I'm actually very excited to see what comes of this interview. Before we kick this off, though, for the guys out there that may not be familiar with you, could you just please introduce yourself and what it is you do?
Sure. Well, I'm the CEO and founder of the Beautiful You Coaching Academy, and we train heart-centered people who have a love of helping and giving to others into how to bring those talents into the world as life coaches. So we have a 6-month flagship course, and we train people from all over the world, and we also travel all over the world as well. I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. Clearly I sound quite different to you. There's an accent here. But we have our meetups all over the world to meet our trainees, and it's fantastic. I absolutely love what I do, and at the moment am so inspired by it and can't imagine doing anything else just yet.
That's awesome. And do you travel yourself to all these different locations to meet the guys that are on your courses?
Yeah, absolutely. That is an enormous part of our business. In every course that we run, we have 2 meetups for the trainees, and one of them we hold here in our hometown of Australia, somewhere around here. And then the other one, we travel to different countries. So we've been to New York, we're going to San Francisco later in the year, we're going to Paris next year, to give our different trainees from around the world an opportunity to be able to connect with us. And also, may I add, I want to be honest and say I've built that into my business as well. So I get to be able to travel to all of these amazing countries. It's one of the perks of owning your own business and having that sort of freedom, entrepreneurial lifestyle. So it works both ways.
Yeah, that's incredible. It must be so cool to be able to just go and meet all these people as well in person. But we're going to get onto your courses a lot more as well in a bit more detail later on, because I'm really interested to see the work you're doing with these guys and how you're helping them. But the theme of this podcast is all about business startups. So could you take us back to when you first started out? What change took place in you that made you decide to become an entrepreneur and start your own business?
That is such a great question. And I think it's so important that entrepreneurs who are experiencing a level of success, which I feel very blessed to be at that point in my life and business now where I am experiencing that, really do share the real behind the scenes stuff that actually happens, because it's very easy when we look on the internet to just kind of assume that somebody has always been at the level that our eyes are seeing in that moment. And of course, that's just not the case. And before I had the academy, which started about 3.5 years ago now, I was a life and business coach for a very long time. And in fact, I've almost been coaching now for nearly 17 years. I was sort of right at the forefront of the industry way back when nobody even knew what a life coach was. And the pivotal moment with that for me, Sam, was really that I was starting to become a bit unhappy in my work. I still enjoyed it and I wasn't desperate to leave, which is, I think, a good place to be because you're motivated, not demotivated. And then I found this thing called coaching actually through a friend of mine, and I knew as soon as it was explained to me that it was something I was going to be passionate about. And I'd always worked with people, and that's exactly the way I found it. Now, that's not to say that the climb and the build from there was not slow and was not at times very challenging. I mean, we're talking 17 years ago here now. There was no such thing as Twitter. There was no Instagram. There was no Facebook pages back then. There was no free social media to do your marketing. There were no website templates. You had to pay someone a lot of money to build you an expensive website. It was hard. It was really challenging, and things have become easier in the online space, I think, but they've also become more crowded. And so it's kind of, you have your challenges along the way, but it hasn't always been easy. It's been a long climb.
Yeah. And I mean, you touched there that you've done this, or we've been doing this for nearly 17 years now. So when you actually made the transition and set up Beautiful You Coaching Academy 3.5 years ago, was it quite an easy thing to get people into, given your experience and the networks you've built already doing this for such a long time?
I do think that those networks helped. There's no question about that. And I was already very established as an online business owner. And I think that that's a really key point to make to anyone that's listening. Sometimes I see people establish websites and just kind of assume almost in a way that as soon as it's up and it's out there, that means that a flood of clients or customers is going to come to them, when in fact that's not the case at all. And you have to really consciously build those relationships and build those networks and build those connections both online and offline as well. But it certainly did help, Sam. There's no doubt about it that by the time I'd reached the point where I thought I'd like to start a life coach training school, which was crazy when the idea first came to me. But I knew that there would be a core number of people that would go with me, at least to begin with. And in the initial stages, I had no idea that it was going to go on to be as big as it was. For me, more than anything, it was a way for me to work with people on a larger scale that was going to help stem the tide of my one-on-one coaching, which had a long wait list and I no longer could manage anymore. And so I just really knew that I needed to do something different. And I thought, well, if this helps with that, that will be great. I didn't really know it was going to go on to be so successful, but I'm really glad that it has.
And I mean, you said you're struggling to manage your one-on-one clients before you launched Beautiful You Coaching Academy. So how many people have you actually trained up through the academy now to be life coaches?
Yeah, we sent an email out to our alumni just last week saying we're coming to Paris next year. Everybody get ready. And we sent that email to 339 people. So that's how many people have trained with us over the last few years. And we have another cohort of 65 people who are training right now and another group of 70 people who are due to begin in a few months' time. So we're growing all the time and training, about 170 to 180 people every year. And I'm just blown away by that still, years later, still.
Yeah. I mean, that's a considerably a larger amount of people or group of people you could train than if you're doing it on a one-to-one basis. So was that sort of the main driver for you to set up the academy, because you just couldn't help enough people?
Yeah, I couldn't help enough people, and also I needed to help myself because if I'd wanted to, and I was in a very blessed and privileged position, I could easily have seen 8 clients a day, 5 days a week. I didn't see that number. I tried to fit in as many as I could, but I'd built my business up to a point where I had almost a 6-month waiting list, and it was very hard to get in to see me. And that was a lovely problem, but it was still a problem. I couldn't manage it. And I had a virtual assistant, and I just realized that I couldn't keep going the way that I was going, and the business was not sustainable in that way, even though it had been so wonderful previous to then. And I realised that mostly what I was doing at that stage was business coaching coaches. They were coming to me and saying, why do you have this waiting list? What are you doing? What's the magic juju? How are you working with people? What are you doing to market that is working so well for you? And I loved working with them. They were amazing. And I was really passionate about them. And that's when I really started to think, how could I maybe get all of these people together and train them, and also at the same time fix this problem that I have of this long waiting list?
Well, that's, like I say, it's a really nice problem to have, but quite a hard one to solve, I suppose. So, I mean, when I was speaking to people about, because I got quite excited about interviewing you, actually, and I was speaking to a few people about this, and actually what occurred to me was a lot of people don't actually know what a life coach really does. For the guys out there that aren't really 100% sure what a life coach is or what they offer, what is your definition of a life coach? And secondly, can you give us some examples of areas of your life that can help you and the benefits that does offer you?
This is a really fantastic question because, you are right. A lot of people don't know what a life coach is. And I'm going to give you a really, really pared back, simple definition that could have lots of trickles underneath it, but I think it's the best one to give. And that is that a life coach helps take someone from where they are to where they want to be. That is, to me, the simplest definition of what a life coach does. They are someone who works with somebody who wants to make changes in their life, who wants to be in a different position to where they are, and they help them close that gap between where they are and where they want to be. And that comes about through lots of different things such as goal setting, uncovering thoughts, feelings, desires, fears, motivations. And in answering the second part of your question, Sam, it can be about so many different areas of someone's life. And one of the things that life coaches do these days, which is very recommended, is they usually have a specific niche. So, for example, they may be a life coach for young women, or a life coach for mothers, or a life coach for corporate executive CEOs. And so what they do is they help those people with whatever it is that they're looking to improve in their life. And it can be everything from having a better relationship with themselves to improving their relationship with money, to improving their health, to prioritising their self-care, to changing careers, so many different things. It's really quite limitless. And it's all about someone, I think, finding the right coach for them that has the right experience and also has the right understanding of what their needs are.
No, that's a great answer, and I think that really does clear up the issue of what a life coach can offer. And I know you also do business coaching as well, so is that where the direct link lies? Do you find that a lot of what you're coaching people relates directly to their business and the goals they want to achieve via their businesses?
Yes, well, when I was doing one-on-one coaching, that was very much the case, very much the case. Now, when we train people through the academy, we don't train them to be business coaches because that is a whole other skill set, I believe. And I come from the school of thought that nobody should be a business coach unless they have already had a very successful business themselves. You don't necessarily have to have an MBA, or something like that, but you do have to really understand what it is that you're consulting with people about there. I think that's very important. But in the actual course, we do have an emphasis on not just training people how to become a life coach, but actually once you are one of those and you do have skills in that area, how do you then take those skills and make a successful business out of it? How do you attract clients? How do you market yourself online? Specifically for life coaches, not general, but we talk about it with a very specific intent, and that is how they can use their skills to create that business. Because I think the truth of the matter is, for most people that train to become a life coach, they don't necessarily have a business orientated background. And so this whole world of being online is actually quite new to them, and it can be a little confronting and even scary.
Definitely. And I mean, I think one interesting topic, which I've done quite a bit of research into this, and there's quite a bit of controversy that surrounds the age of someone, and the age represents that person's experience, which I don't generally believe is the case. But I mean, you work with a lot of guys, so do you feel that age is a limiting factor to the success of the aspiring life coaches you're working with?
No.
Awesome.
No. No, I don't. And, I certainly understand where this thinking comes from. I know that there are some people that believe that basically unless you're 45, you shouldn't even think about being a life coach because what would you know? You haven't lived, all of those sorts of things. And, I think if you're 23 and you're trying to coach, incredibly successful, corporate executives in their 40s and 50s, well, that makes perfect sense. What would you know? When it's not, there's not a match there. It's not well connected. But young people make amazing coaches, particularly I find if they're coaching people younger than them, such as teens or university students or other people around their age. And I have certainly witnessed that many of our most successful coaches that have done our course have been in their 20s and not even their late 20s. They've been in their, sort of that 23 to 26, bracket, and they're coaching other young women and young men, and they're doing incredibly well. And so I don't think those things are a barrier. I think it's about staying in your lane, understanding what your strengths are, and also understanding what isn't appropriate for you and taking it from there. So, yeah, I don't think age is a barrier at all.
No, and that's, well, let's touch more on the academy itself now. So, I mean, could you just tell us a little bit more about Beautiful You Coaching Academy?
Yeah, well, we train people to become life coaches. Essentially, that's what we do. And we have a 6-month flagship online course, which someone can take from anywhere in the world. And we have graduates from all 4 corners of the globe and everywhere in between. And as I mentioned earlier, we have 2 inspirational meetups where people get a chance to meet their trainers. We have inspiring speakers, panels, a chance for people to connect in person because, you know, it's fantastic to be able to study online from the comfort of your own home in your pajamas. But it's also really wonderful to get out there and meet people and connect in person as well. And our course very much has a focus on the heart. And when I say that, we're all about creating heart-centered and heart-focused life coaches that don't just do things such as set goals with their clients like, I want to make $1 squillion or I want to lose 10 pounds or, you know, I want a hot husband sort of thing. We're really about training people to go deeper than that and really ask their clients, what do you want your life to be all about? Who are you? How do you want to feel every day? You know, not just what do you want to weigh and how much money do you want to earn? You know, those things are at times in our life important that we look at and be careful and mindful of and pay attention to. But they're not necessarily things that I know now after 17 years of coaching and more than 25 years of counselling people that make people happy and make people feel content. And so we're really interested in training people to be much more heart and depth focused with their clients. And that means we attract a particular type of trainee and we love them for that, which is great.
And I suppose it's all about just making people really take a look at the bigger picture and everything as a whole, as opposed to just focusing on business and just really narrowing down on that. Because, I mean, the only way I can relate to that really is, I mean, since starting this podcast, since starting my online businesses, and I've got another business, I've got 2 other businesses as well, which are offline. So if I'm not sort of kept in line, I could generally go off and work 100% of my business 7 days a week and pretty much neglect every other person that surrounds me, including my wife, my son, my family. And it was only when I met my mentor in London and he said, we was writing down my goals, and he said to me, okay, in 10 years, we set my goals. And he said, well, when you look at this picture, is your wife and son in this picture and enjoying this wealth with you and this lifestyle with you? Which, of course, my response was, well, yes, of course they are. And then he was like, well, you need to invest in them as well. And it's only when he put it like that, I was like, my God, I've really messed up here. So I can really relate to what you're saying there, because I was actually one of those people that was just, I thought I was doing everything right by trying to provide for my family. But the one thing I was doing wrong was not spending time with my family, which sounds ridiculous now I look back on it. So I can completely relate to what you're saying there.
Well, that's a fantastic coach and mentor that you're working with there, for him to have asked you those questions and helped you come to that realisation. And I don't think you've made a mistake there at all, because that was clearly the path that you had to tread to find out that very important information and make some changes. And yes, you're right. And you know what? I want to admit that even as a coach of coaches, I have to be very careful about these things as well, because, you know, I passionately love what I do. Yeah. And I hear you. It is not easy when you absolutely love what you do to step away from it. And when you are an entrepreneur and you've got, you know, so many demands on your time, it is really, really easy to kind of say, no, I can't go out and do that or this or whatever. But I always promise myself, particularly around weekend times, that if ever I found myself in a position where I was saying no to quality time with my friends and family and myself because I was working, that was always going to be something that I needed to see in my own life was a signal that something wasn't right. And I really needed to genuinely look at addressing that. And so even though I may still do some work on the weekends sometimes, I actually find it a really amazing time to work because nobody's in my inbox, nobody's ringing me, and I get a lot of work done. I would never do that work over those other more important things in my life. So it's about conscious choices.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, could you tell us a little bit more about the work you're actually doing with the guys in your courses and helping them establish themselves in this industry?
Well, it's really important in our course. Firstly, I think this is important to mention that we do have to present the online business world to them in quite a simple way to begin with, because we are dealing with people here that may never, ever have had an online business before. And so we're not teaching sophisticated things such as, for example, sales funnels that have 27 different steps. And there are sales funnels out there that are like that. And, you know, it's inappropriate to be teaching people that are starting out in business things like that. But what we do teach is the basics, and I think we teach the basics very well. And it's something that I think a lot of places don't get. You know, we don't just talk about establishing a business Facebook page or, this is how we teach things such as public speaking, good branding, sales copy on your website, all of those things that we know are absolutely core to attracting your most ideal clients and getting that flow in your business. It's more than that. We don't just give people instructions on how to do something. It's about you've got to think about the intent behind everything. When we talk about branding, we talk about all the different touch points that people can have with your brand, from your Instagram account to a card that you may send them in the mail to, your business logo, and how those things fit and flow together, and how you need to make conscious choices for those things to work. When we talk about social media, we talk about the importance of being authentic, but also incredibly client focused. And we say it's okay for you to post pictures on Instagram of your babies or your puppies or your kitties if you want, but you need to also make sure that within that, you are using it primarily as a platform to attract people into your business. Because if you're not doing that, then you shouldn't have it attached to your business and you just should have a private account. So again, it's about conscious decision making and understanding that it only takes one tweet, one photo, one Facebook post to break trust with people. Or to have people start to ask lots of questions that mean they don't understand who you are and what you're about, and that you need to be careful of those things.
That's incredible advice, actually, because people, in fact, because I, with the nature of my offline business, it's actually a CrossFit gym, and it's a very close-knit community there, and you do get very close to your members, and a lot of them have actually commented that I never put anything personal on Facebook. It's always about business. And that's something I had to really consciously make an effort to do, because I see a lot of guys making those mistakes myself, where they'll put pictures of them out having a good beer at the weekend, looking a bit messy, and it's like, it doesn't really align with that professional image, So, no, I think that's incredible advice for the guys listening in today. I mean, for the guys out there as well, that they're probably listening to this thinking, I know they're probably thinking that you've got an amazing setup, you're doing great work with people, and they'd want to do something like this themselves. So could you go into a bit more detail about how you actually run your courses? I mean, is it mainly online courses with meets from time to time, like you just mentioned, and how do you structure these courses and then include those meetups within the sort of the steps within that course, if you get what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the course is delivered entirely online, and we have a very large, significant membership site that every course has a dedicated portal area in that membership site for themselves. And we have 14 modules in the course. And in every module, there is at least one, sometimes more lectures to listen into. They accompany a very large printed manual and workbook that everybody receives in the mail. So even though we're an online course, we're a little bit different to most online courses, unless you're sort of doing it at, like a tertiary university type level. It's not a straight e-course. Right, it's more than that, because we have large printed materials that people need to receive to work through. And within each module as well, there is then a series of interviews with guest experts to listen into. And we also then have, for every module, 2 group coaching calls. And people don't need to attend both of those. They can just choose to attend one. But we have them at different times, one at 11 a.m, our time here in Australia, and one at 7 p.m. So it helps people engage with us from all over the world. We find that most of our European, UK and North American friends join us at the 11 o'clock call, because that's later in the evening for themselves. And then most of our Australian cohort join us in the evening, and sometimes the UK if they're up late and things like that. Yeah. So then we have our 2 meetups, and they usually come about a third of the way into the course, and then they come again right at the end. So it acts as a celebration. We've finished, we present certificates to people who come to that in person. So that's always really lovely. They receive that in person, which is really nice. So it kind of feels a little bit like a graduation party and celebration. And those meetups are not compulsory. We say to people that you do not have to attend those, but if you can at least get to one, they're so worth it. And we actually don't talk about curriculum in the course on those days. We call them inspiration days. And so they are purely for people to meet their trainers, connect with each other, hear some incredible speakers. We try to latch on to the very, very best speakers and coaches and amazing people in the world and bring them to that day for them to connect with. And so really it's just a day to be inspired, have fun, and really, really connect in person with all the other people that you've been training with and up until that point in time have only connected with online.
That sounds like an incredible course. There's tons going on there as well. I mean, where do I sign up? I mean, come on.
Well, we'd love to have you. Yeah. We'd love to have you. Our branding is very much focused mostly towards women. There's no question that most of the people who train with us are women, and there's a lot more women in the life coaching industry than there is men. But my goodness, those men who do train with us, they have an amazing time, and they're so welcomed, and men make great life coaches too. There's no question about that.
And with so much going on, at the end of the day, this is still a business. Everything costs money. So how do you actually monetize these courses?
Yeah. Look, we are probably, in all honesty, if we were looked at by one of the big, gurus in the online business world, if somebody like Brendan Bouchard or Ryan Levesque or someone like that was to look at our business model, they would go, I don't get it. Yeah. I don't get it. How can you be running a 7-figure global business when you have like one flagship offering? Like, I don't get it. We're not really the norm, because most people in those larger businesses do have a variety of different touch points. And we just really have our one big course. We have in the last 6 months introduced a smaller paid membership offering. It's just over $100 a year and it's got lots of value. And that was because we knew that some people couldn't afford to train with us, but they still wanted to be connected to us in some way. But really, we're sort of bucking the model, the current model at the moment, and we just have that one flagship offering. And I'm really comfortable with that. Lots of people have said you should do high-end masterminds and you should branch off into this and this. But, we're still very young. We're only 3.5 years old as an academy, and I still really feel as though we've got improvements to make to the course. They sell out. They sell out months in advance, and that's a fantastic thing. And I know that means that we need to look at some other things as well. But also, and this might be a big tip for everybody out there as well, I just feel as the CEO and the person who looks after our staff, we have permanent staff who work for us and contractors as well, and of course all of our beautiful trainees, I'm really happy. I'm really, really happy with where the business is at right now. I can see a path to expansion and growth and more, but I don't really want it just yet. I don't really want it. Maybe I will at some point in time, but right now I feel really happy and comfortable. I'm able to have a life outside of my business, and I think that's really important. I get to travel to beautiful places every year, and right now I just don't want any more than what I have. Yeah. If I ever do, well, I'll make some changes. But for the moment, I'm just really happy to sit with it as it is.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is so good. And well, we're running out of time now, Julie. This interview has flown by. So before we go, have you got any parting words of wisdom for the listeners of the show?
Oh, my goodness. Just... if you're going to start a business or you've already started a business, just follow your passion, follow your joy. Because when you follow your passion and your joy, you won't feel like you're working, and you will be so motivated and inspired to then do what is the next step and steps that you need to do, and that is work out comprehensively how do you monetize that passion and joy. It's a 2-step process. You can't just follow it. You've got to follow it and then work it.
Yes.
It's not just about the first one. But to me, if you don't have the first one and you're doing everything right in the online business world around trying to make something work that you're not really, really passionate about, maybe you're just doing it because it's what you've always done, or you're doing it because it's what people expect you to do, or you're doing it because that's what you've got a degree in, it won't last. Yeah. You'll fizzle out. You've got to follow your joy, follow your passion, and then work out what is the best way for you to monetize that. Because I genuinely believe that anyone can make money from anything they love to do. There are people who love to play with makeup and they get paid to do that. There are people who love to surf and they get paid to do it. There are people that love to tinker with, out in the garden and in nature. They get paid to do it. And so everybody can monetize their passion and joy if you work hard enough and find out the concrete ways to do that.
I love that. That's incredible advice. And that's one of the reasons I love asking that question, because I always get great answers from people, and that's definitely up there with the best of them. So,
oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And I mean, before we finish up, Julie, where is the best place for people to find you online, and how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can find us at beautifulyoucoachingacademy.com. We're there, and for anyone who's interested, we have a beautiful free magazine too that we send out every month, and people might be interested in receiving that or even writing for us. So check it out, and we always welcome submissions.
Awesome. And guys, like normal, I'll put all the links to Julie's websites and her contact details in the show notes below, and links to the free magazine as well. So definitely go and check those out. And Julie, that is it. We've gone over our half an hour. That interview just flew by, but thank you so much for coming on. We've got tons. I don't know if you saw, I was jotting myself there quite a lot of notes, so I got a lot from that as well personally. So thank you for your time and just coming on today.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, Sam. I've really enjoyed speaking with you, and I hope that it was really helpful for everyone.
Well, and there it is, guys. Another incredible episode of the MyCoda podcast. Another amazing guest. And thank you once again, Julie, just for coming on and just sharing your wisdom with us there on everything that you're doing with your guys in the academy, how you're helping them set up successful businesses, and how you actually run that business yourself and made it such a success. So, guys, I hope you got a lot from that one. Like you heard at the end there, I was jotting notes like mad. I'd smoke coming off my pen at some points, trying to keep up with some of the points that Julie was going through there, but I think I got everything. And the stuff that I did get, guys, are in the show notes below. So, again, thank you so much for listening in. And I just hope you got a lot from that one, because that was just such a pleasure to be able to interview Julie and see how she's helping people become successful life coaches. So, Julie, thank you for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure speaking to you today on the show. And guys, we've actually got a lot of things going on at the minute, especially in terms with our consultancy work. Now, I'm working with a lot of guys at the minute with their companies and helping them really just align exactly where they want to go and putting them in the right direction and just demystifying a lot of the stuff that they've got going on and putting some clarity on the situation so they know exactly what it is they want, what they want to achieve, how they're going to achieve it, and then I'm setting action plans with these guys. And then we're not only setting action plans, we are following up and we are giving them follow-up sessions where we sometimes look at things that have gone right, things that have gone wrong, we test and adjust, and we carry on moving forward, and we are making these guys so much ground. And on the flip side, we are making them a lot of money as well. I mean, these guys are absolutely killing it. So if you are interested to see if we can help you guys, because I personally, podcasting is a massive love of mine. I love doing this. I've said it so many times before, but this truly is one of my big passions. 1, connecting with people. 2, learning other people's stories and how they've become a success. And 3, helping other people through the experiences of these successful entrepreneurs and being able to voice this and deliver it to you week in, week out, so I can literally help you through the experience of others. And it's just such an incredible thing to be able to do, and which is why I love the age we're in, because information is just here at our fingertips, and we are at the forefront of it right now, providing some awesome content for guys. And I'm not just saying that to blow my own trumpet, I'm saying that because it's the feedback we're getting, and I know it's helping a lot of people. And just thank you for listening in, thank you for taking action on it, and really making this worthwhile for us. But another huge love of mine, and I love doing this, guys, is I love the one-to-one stuff. I love getting into the nitty-gritty of what people are doing with their businesses, helping them out, pointing them in the right direction, and getting them on the right track to becoming a success. And we're talking about, we are increasing productivity, we're increasing conversions, we're increasing traffic, we're increasing income, we're increasing time. I mean, time alone is something that we are just buying back for people constantly, all the time. And it actually brings me on to a point I'd like to finish on, is time is literally your most valuable commodity, and it's something that you cannot get that back. Money comes and goes, but you cannot get time back. And the only way you can truly cut your learning curve and get as much time back as possible is by learning from others, which is why we do this. So whether you want to go down one-on-one routes with us, guys, whether you're loving the blogs, whether you're loving the podcasts, we've got the Entrepreneurs Education Centre up and running now with tons of free resources in there. We are here to help you do that. And that is it, guys. So thank you once again for listening in. It has been an absolute pleasure. Julie, thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, you are quite possibly one of the most genuine and nicest people we've had the pleasure of interviewing. So thank you for giving us half an hour of your time today. And that is it, guys. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I look forward to seeing you on the next session on the MyCoda podcast.